Hi, Lou here. While I was educated as an historian, I am not an historian of games. Not exactly. I leave that to people like David Parlett, who wrote the Oxford History of Board Games and the Oxford History of Card Games. But I do think about the origins of games, where games came from, what games are related to. So this little bit occurred to me at some point. Most games that we call tabletop games derive from either card games or from puzzles or from classic games like chess and checkers and Go. Now, what is the difference? What makes this happen? Well, think about it. In card games, there's not so much interaction. We could call them low reactive games for the most part, not entirely. There are, of course, exceptions because there are a great many card games. But if you think of a game like Canasta, which was very popular in the 50s and 60s, you may not have heard of it nowadays. It is not a highly reactive game, but the only thing you can do is you watch the other players, and when they discard, you can pick up their discard. Now, a game like poker, there's considerably more interaction, but poker is an unusual game for a card game. Puzzles, on the other hand, are totally non-reactive. A puzzle is made generally for one person or for a team. And so you're dealing with the system presented to you by the game. Many Euro games are descended from puzzles. Solo games descend from puzzles. Co-op games descend from puzzles. Then there are games that are what I call highly reactive, where you have to pay attention to what the other player is doing, or players, but they're typically two-player games, and react to it, even if your reaction is to ignore it, because if you don't, you're going to lose the game. Now, war games, of course, derive from that kind of game. Where does a role-playing game come from? Well, one of the unique aspects of role-playing games is they don't have a lot of precedence. It is one of those rare things, a game which does have its antecedents, but generally comes from thin air, let's say. So we have games that are non-reactive, puzzles. We have games that are highly reactive, like classic games. And we have some games in between that derive from card games. Euro-style board games are parallel competitions or puzzles, more or less. And war games are highly reactive, and they're very different. And that's why some people like one and not the other, because they don't want to do what the game requires them to do. For example, I despise puzzles. I just don't like them because I don't feel I ever accomplish anything. If I solve the puzzle, that's what I was supposed to do. And if I don't solve the puzzle, I feel stupid. I'm not interested in doing puzzles. Other people like puzzles because they get progress toward a goal. And they're going to prefer a board game that's more like a puzzle. Take that for what it's worth. Thanks for listening.